Hi, I'm Maggie Holland, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor. And let's go over narcissistic relationships and how to cope. So, being the partner to a narcissist can leave a person feeling alone, unheard, and uncared for. And while a narcissist might appear kind at first, the facade soon starts to fall flat as they begin exhibiting their true manipulative and abusive identity that is underneath that facade. Eventually, the narcissist's repeated criticisms, gaslighting, and sometimes rageful reactions to perceived slights can result in the partner thinking that they're not good enough. So, before I continue, I have linked in the description below to an in depth article on narcissistic relationships and some helpful resources for support if you feel that you are needing it. Also, you can help improve the quality of mental health content on the web by liking this video and by joining us in the comment section below with your own personal story or with any questions you might have about narcissism. A relationship with a narcissist can be incredibly challenging, emotionally draining, and exhausting. There are many common narcissistic relationship patterns and behaviors that can affect your ability to move forward in your partnership in healthy ways. But unfortunately, if you do find yourself in a partnership with a narcissist, it is really common to end up feeling alone or isolated. So if any of the things in this video feel like they apply to you, really important to get help. It's really important to take care of yourself first and foremost. So let's go over some signs that you might be in a relationship with a narcissist. We're gonna go through 11, but there are a lot more out there. But these are some examples and some situations that you can look out for. So first, they were once incredibly charming. So when you first met them, they seemed like they were the perfect partner. They were sociable, they were kind, they were generous, they were very affectionate. They would go out of their way to show you how they feel and show you that they care about you. They'd treat you like absolute royalty. These can be signs of love bombing, but in the beginning, there was so much affection, there was so much attention that they were pouring on you. So they kept this up until you started to trust that their intentions were pure and that you all were on the same page. But over time, this charming attitude begins to fade, and then it actually starts turning into them devaluing you. So this begins what is actually the cycle of narcissistic abuse. And this is followed by attempts to keep you in their life so that you can continue to feed their narcissistic supply. Then at this point, you might start noticing that they begin to make every conversation about them. So the topic of conversation always redirects back towards their life and their experiences and accomplishments. And some phrases you might hear is when you bring this up to them, it's just, you're just insecure. They often will interrupt you in order to bring the attention back to themselves with comments about an incident in their past or accomplishments of theirs. So they will use what you're saying as a springboard to bring the attention back to themselves. And if your opinion is different from theirs, they might correct you, dismiss you, maybe even just ignore you. So next, you might start noticing that they're expecting preferential treatment. So narcissists feel entitled to special privileges. So an example of this might be that they hop to the front of a line to get seated immediately at a restaurant, even if there's other people waiting. When this sense of entitlement is refused by others, a narcissist might become really angry, critical. They might react with narcissistic rage. They're going to get really defensive. Alternately, they might retreat into the silent treatment and withdraw from you, but there will be a response when they have been slighted, especially if it's public. They will often also act like they're more important than other people. So a narcissistic partner will brag about their own accomplishments or skills without recognizing the talents and achievements of others, including their partner. And they will appear convinced of their own grandiosity. That's a behavior that is commonly associated with grandiose narcissism, but can apply to other forms of narcissism as well. You might notice that they feed off compliments from you and from other people. And we all like to receive compliments. There is nothing wrong with that. However, narcissists need this external validation in order to fuel their ego because they can't actually hang on to their ego themselves. There's kind of a void where their ego would be. So they need this external validation. So compliments actually boost their ego to such a degree that it validates the grandiose sense of self, this facade that they're putting on, and that convinces them to continue doing so. And so they are constantly looking for praise from you or from other people when they're out in public, and they rely on that. And so if you're noticing this a lot, it is likely that the narcissist is actually trying to get their supply filled. The next sign that you might be in a relationship with a narcissist is that they show very little concern for your feelings. So, one of the cornerstone components of narcissistic personality disorder is lacking access to empathy. So, narcissists tend to be preoccupied with their own feelings and needs. This can mean sometimes they come off as cold and detached when you need emotional support, and they really find it difficult to make a sincere apology and to accept responsibility for any harm that they have caused. And this can often leave their partners feeling like they're entirely alone and feeling really dissatisfied in the relationship. Another thing you might notice if you're in a relationship with a narcissist is that they are really focused on superficial matters and things. So, narcissists prioritize their own appearance, their beauty, their social status. They put a lot of effort into their own appearance and they criticize any perceived flaws in other people, which can also include their partners. So, you, as the partner, might be expected to meet their standards of perfection because they see you as an extension of themselves. So, if you are less than perfect, then you are going to ruin the facade that they are perfect. So, if this is happening with you, it's really important to remember that criticism in a relationship is not a healthy dynamic. It shouldn't be tolerated. And it is absolutely something that you should focus on taking care of yourself if you are experiencing that. A definite red flag and a sign that you might be in a relationship with a narcissist is they have very few, if any at all, friends. So narcissists have a really hard time keeping friends because one-sided relationships tend to come with narcissistic personality disorder because they struggle to tap into empathy. They struggle to think about anything or anybody other than themselves. And this one-sided nature means that a lot of friendships end up kind of dying. So if they have long-term friends, it may be that those friends are empaths and they're utilizing people pleasing to feel good about themselves. If a narcissist does have long term friends, it's important to examine that relationship and look at the context for it. So, just because a friend has been a long term friend doesn't mean that it's actually a supportive relationship. It could be something that the narcissist is like painting a certain picture to you, but in reality, the friendship actually looks very different. It's really important to note that context is really important to consider friendships. So, if a friend has moved away or if they have friends that are in other cities, that doesn't necessarily mean that a person is narcissistic. Friendships take effort from both people. So, the qualities that make a friendship work have to be reciprocated in order for them to have friendships. Since narcissists struggle to do this and struggle to think about other people, oftentimes narcissists will not have a lot of friends. Another sign that your partner might be a narcissist is that they are charming when it suits their needs. So, a narcissistic partner will be capable of superficial charm and be able to appear as extremely confident. However, this engaging social manner can quickly change if the narcissist experiences narcissistic injury after they've been slighted or dismissed, or if they have perceived that they have been slighted. So, although they're able to put this on in certain situations, it can change just as quickly. And they can turn it off just as quickly when they get in private and no longer need to impress you. Another sign that you might be dating a narcissist is that they are extremely sensitive to criticism. So they might respond to constructive criticism with heated arguments or defensiveness or like a sudden detachment from that person. And a common response from narcissists is to judge or criticize or gaslight you or blame you for the problem or take offense that you brought this to their attention. Another sign can be that they often manipulate other people. So if they use others to meet their own needs or to fulfill their own dreams, it's possible that they are actually engaging in manipulation tactics. So at times, this involves portraying themselves as the victim under pretty much all circumstances. This is done in an attempt to persuade you or to guilt you into doing something that is not in your best interest, but it does serve their needs. It serves as a means to an end for them. So, as a quick reminder, I have linked to narcissism resources in the description below. Check them out if you want to work on getting a better understanding of narcissistic personality disorder and to find support if you feel that you need it. Okay, so let's go over how to recognize narcissistic abuse in a relationship. So, a common sign of abuse in a narcissistic relationship is emotional abuse and really frequent harsh criticisms. This can cause their partner to feel diminished, full of self-doubt. People that are exposed to constant criticism, particularly in a romantic relationship, often feel as though their personality is lacking in some way, especially if they've been exposed to that over and over again. If a person hears a thing enough times, they will begin to believe that that is true. So if the relationship with the narcissist continues, more signs of emotional abuse can begin to appear after this. So, some other signs of narcissistic abuse can include frequent lying, which may include lying about difficulties in their past, particularly things that evoke sympathy or makes you want to protect them. Another sign of narcissistic abuse is gaslighting, which is when somebody manipulates you into believing that you don't have a firm grasp on reality, and therefore you need to trust in them to tell you what is real. This can include what reality is happening in the current moment. This can include questioning your memory, but ultimately, this will give a narcissist control over the narrative and then make you dependent on them. So then they have control over you. Another sign of narcissistic abuse in a relationship is exploitation. So, a narcissistic partner might be revenge seeking and even go as far as telling other people lies about you to turn them against you or to hurt your reputation. Sometimes this is also called a narcissistic smear campaign. If you are involved in a narcissistic relationship, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to accept and be honest with yourself that this is a narcissistic relationship that either contains abuse or has the potential to contain abuse. When you do this, you are much more likely to take care of yourself, to set the boundaries that you need, and to begin healing if you're needing it. It is absolutely advised to leave this relationship if you can, but it's not always realistic that you're going to be able to. So if this person is a partner that you have children with, if this person is your boss, if this person is a close family member, and you've made important commitments that are important to you to maintain, it might not always be possible for you to cut this person completely out of your life. But first, you can start by accepting and acknowledging the true nature of the relationship, learn as much as you can about it, and take care of yourself when and where possible. If for whatever reason you cannot leave a relationship with a narcissist, here are a couple tips that I recommend for coping and protecting yourself. First and foremost, manage your expectations about the relationship. So, this is possibly the most difficult yet important way that you can cope with a narcissist and the behaviors that they're going to be doing. Please remember that it is unrealistic to expect a narcissist to change. Narcissism is a personality disorder, which means that it is pervasive, it's chronic throughout their life, is a long-term thing that impacts them. So it's really important to remember that according to experts in narcissism treatment, a highly motivated narcissist might be able to make small behavioral changes, but even then it's going to require persistent effort by them to try to maintain this, and most are not likely to put in the effort. Again, remember, the root of this is that they believe that everybody else is the problem. And so if they return to that it's unlikely that they're going to stick with any of the recommendations in treatment. The next most important thing that you can do is to practice your own self-care. So it's really common to neglect yourself when you're caught up in a relationship with a narcissist. So self-care includes daily routines that enable you to maintain your own emotional, physical, mental well-being. These routines can be a combination of exercise, healthy diet, spending time with healthy other people, particularly outside of the relationship, and participating in hobbies. So speaking of healthy relationships, one thing that you can do to help cope if you're in a relationship with a narcissist is to shift your time and energy into healthier relationships. So, unhealthy relationships can be frustrating, confusing, disappointing, and so it can be helpful to channel your energy into a more productive place, such as healthy friendships, healthy family members, and people that really value you as well. And talking with other people about the problems caused by the narcissist can sometimes help you to see the facts in the situation, figure out how you want to respond, and to feel validation from somebody that is outside of the situation. Another really important thing that you can do to cope, which is why I am assuming that you are here and have stayed so long into this video, is to educate yourself about narcissism, particularly if you're willing to go to a therapist like me. So a therapist can help you identify true narcissistic behaviors versus just people who are acting in narcissistic ways, because there is a difference. So if you're only experiencing one or two signs of being in a relationship with a narcissist, you might benefit from getting a deeper understanding of what's happening in your particular relationship, because you might not actually be looking at dealing with a narcissistic partner. There might be something else going on. Another really important thing that you can do is to set boundaries and then to stick with them. So setting healthy boundaries in a relationship, any relationship, is important, as they kind of outline the limits of what you will and will not tolerate in that relationship. So for example, let's say the narcissist may repeatedly borrow items from you and then not return them, or they ask you to lend them cash without paying them back. So setting a limit of which items, if any, that you are willing to lend them in the future, or how much money you are willing to lend them, and then sticking with that when that request comes in from the narcissist. Another thing that you can do is to be aware of your own vulnerabilities. So narcissists are often drawn to people that are kind, that are forgiving, that are really eager to help other people. And although these are really admirable traits, they're great. They're going to make healthy relationships much better. They also become something that narcissists will exploit, and they will try to appeal to these sympathies in order to portray themselves as a victim. So they will actually use these things as a tool against you. They might pull a pity card and trying to regain your sympathy or create feelings of guilt on your part to get what they want. And usually this is done to try to compel you to do something for them that is against your better judgment. So if you notice and maintain awareness of your own tendencies to be a helper, to be kind, to be forgiving, you are much more likely to make good decisions for you. Another thing that you can do to cope in a relationship with a narcissist is to not rely on their promises. So narcissists are often deceitful. They often don't feel remorse when they use other people. And sometimes they lie and deceive just to see if they can get away with it, just to see if they can hold that power over somebody else. Sometimes they also deceive to try to manipulate somebody to get something specific. But due to this, having no qualms about deceiving other people, just make a deal with yourself that you're not going to rely on their promises. Last, but definitely not least, is to remember not to take their criticisms to heart. So criticism and judgment are tools that are used by a narcissist in order to control other people. So repeated criticism often leaves a person feeling as though they're not good enough. They start believing those things they have heard over and over again. Or sometimes a narcissist uses this to convince the person that they are so lacking that they need the narcissist in their life. The narcissist gets to have control over the other person. But with this, it's really important to keep perspective that any criticism that comes from a narcissist could be manipulation and is most likely not even a true statement. So if you are questioning whether it's true or not, it can be helpful to ask a trusted friend or family member or even a therapist for support and for a reality check on the truth of what that narcissist is saying to you. So, if you think you might be in a narcissistic relationship, it is important to remember that you are not alone. I have linked lots of narcissism resources in the description below, including ways to find support and lots of ways to gain a better understanding of narcissistic personality disorder.